Welcome to FantasyFran.com. Week 14 kickers.
Come on, kicker.
I'll tell you what, we actually saw some really, really good kicker action this past week. Really, I guess, starting with our number one guy.
Well, I tell you what, the accuracy and the length of kickers in modern day football is off the chart. You know, when they're kicking it over 50 yards, I mean, they have a good chance of making it. And we start off with number one kicker David Akers, who's got to be 100 years old. Had his great career at Philadelphia, but he's in the right place. He's kicking great. He's accurate, even kicking long field goals. San Francisco gives him the opportunity because they don't score a lot of touchdowns.
Sure.
They move the ball. Their defense plays great, but they have to win by kicking field goals. They're playing Arizona. Arizona's not a bad defensive team, but Akers will get a lot of chances to kick field goals. I'm sure that Jim Harbaugh would like him to score more touchdowns, but they just don't. Number two, Stephen Gostkowski, because New England's going to drive the ball. They're going to score touchdowns, kick field goals. They got to outscore people because they cannot stop anybody. They're playing Washington. Washington's last hurrah was last week when they got beat by 2 touchdowns by the Jets. Gostkowski will do well. Billy Cundiff at Baltimore, Indianapolis. Here's another thing. The offense is not dynamic enough to score a lot of touchdowns. But they will get in position to score field goals. They're playing Indianapolis, although Indianapolis played pretty well last week against New England. They'll shut Indianapolis down. Baltimore will get the ball a lot, and Cundiff could be number one this week because he's going to get a lot of chances to kick field goals. Matt Prater, Denver, Chicago. You playing at home in Denver, thin air. You can kick it longer and higher and farther, and Denver's on a roll. Tebow's getting them down the field. He's going to get them in position. I think he's a good pick against Chicago because Chicago is not going to keep the ball away from Denver's offense, like Denver and like Prater kicking field goals. Sebastian Janikowski, who he only kicked two extra points last week, but they're playing Green Bay. Green Bay has no defense. Their only defense is Aaron Rodgers keeping the ball. Their only defense is Aaron Rodgers scoring touchdowns. They outscore everybody. There are going to be points scored. Oakland's going to score points. They're going to kick field goals. Sebastian Janikowski will kick them from 60, 65 yards. And because they got to put points on the board every time they have the ball, either 3 or 7, Janikowski will have a good game.
Now, we're coming into kind of the playoff season for fantasy football. Does it shock you that here we are in winter, and we haven't had any games with a lot of snow, a lot of heavy rain, anything like that? And you've talked about the effect that the cold and the wind and everything has on the football. Is that something that we can expect to see in kind of the outdoor games in the Northeast?
We got this heat thing on, warming the planet, global warming and so forth. And we're going to be through the season here by the end of December. I don't think we'll get extreme weather, but when you do get the extreme weather, you're right, the ball hardens up. You lose probably as much as 10 yards on how far you're going to kick the ball or how far you're going to throw the ball. It's just not a pliable bar. You like that ball to be a little softer when you throw it or when you kick it, and it gets to be a rock. Harder to throw, harder to kick. But I don't think that's going to be a factor this weekend. Probably not until you get into January, into the playoffs.
All right. Well, you heard it here from Hall of Fame quarterback. Not necessarily a Hall of Fame kicker, but he knows a little something about football, folks. So thanks for joining us. All your Week 14 picks right here at FantasyFran.com. Join us back next week for all your Week 15 picks in the dead of your playoff push. Thanks again.